You got that good elevator music going, huh? All right,
It was
awesome. Where are you
this.
guys coming from? Where's everyone coming from? So I'm in Delray Beach. Charlie is not too far from me. He's up in, you're in Jupiter, right, Charles?
I am. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 20 minutes away, 25 minutes away. Pico Rivera, nice. I don't know where that is. It's probably south somewhere. Yeah, Portland, awesome.
Fantastic.
You're LA. Yeah.
Oh, I tell you what, Zach, if you want to, I guess, stop sharing screen and just kind of, you want to spotlight Chris and I, that might make things a little bit easier so people know who's talking and whatnot. We got somebody from Puerto Rico. Look at that. How cool. Very nice. All right. Well, I tell you what, they're gonna keep letting people in here, which is gonna be great. We're just gonna get started because this is ultimately a fireside chat for you guys. Here's sort of the how all this came about. Um, we work with six, seven, eight figure companies that are asking themselves questions like, how do I grow faster, more predictably, and less dependent on me? And so we provide a lot of the strategy and then the muscle and that helps a lot of the strategy go into action comes a lot of it comes from Chris over at Sales Message. And so he and I will volley back and forth and have a little intellectual ping pong. And we just thought you guys might benefit from some of this intellectual ping pong that we have. So you can close deals without being involved in every conversation. And Chris has got some really cool stuff that's going on, some innovations that a lot of the public hasn't figured out yet or knows about that will give you a nice little advantage as it continues to move forward. So this call is ultimately for you. If you have questions, throw them inside of the chat. We'll answer those questions and we're just going to have some fun. You want to add anything else to that, Chris?
Yeah, no, look, I'm used to doing webinars, and so you don't really see faces. So this is going to be a collaborative, like, probably later in the chat, we can bring you guys on board. So if you have questions, by all means, don't hesitate, drop it in the chat. And at some point, we'll bring you on. And Susie's on our team too, so she'll help out with any questions too. But yeah, let's do it, Charlie. Let's go.
Let's rock and roll. And if you can put yourself on camera, by the way, I love seeing the different faces, and this way I know who we're talking to, and that's always a plus. So if you're able to put yourself on camera, please do so. And there will be a replay link, I believe, and we'll make sure that that's going out. I know somebody on the team is recording here, which is fantastic. Um,
Yeah.
Very cool, awesome. Um, Chris, I'm gonna volley one over to you first. You and I have been in business for a long time. In fact, you and I first met, I believe it was back in 2009, maybe
Oof.
2009, 2010, and you had created a marketing course way, way, way back in the day. And I actually purchased your marketing course.
Killer
And
campaigns, baby. Yep.
what was that called again?
Killer campaigns.
Killer
Yeah.
Campaigns. That's right.
Yep.
Um, and so you've always been more advanced when it comes to marketing, more advanced when it comes to sales and getting a good pulse. A lot has changed. So when we talk about closing more deals without being involved in every conversation, what do you think right now has been the biggest change from when you and I first met a couple decades ago almost to where it is right now? And then I'll throw another one. Where do you think it's going?
Yeah. Yeah. First, I'll introduce myself. Maybe you know me, maybe you don't, but either way. So I'm Chris. I run a company called Salesmsg. So we focus on the conversational text messaging calling side. So we're software. We integrate into HubSpot, Salesforce, a lot of different CRMs. And so the last couple of years, I've really been building, growing that product, growing that business. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been, the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, building, growing, hiring, all of it, right? And so I'm in the trenches as much as probably everyone on the call is, right? So less in certain areas, which has been a good thing. But, I have I have done it all. And so, going back to 2009 or whenever Killer Campaigns came out, I just went super deep to learn everything I could about sales, marketing, writing copy, HTML, creating websites, creating sales letters, doing one-click upsells, like all of those things. And so, because I had to build it all, like back then there really wasn't a lot, you just had to discover and figure all those things out about how to connect pages together and do one-click upsells with authorize.net and like,
Yeah, yeah, right.
all these different things. And so things have changed so much that I mean now, like I spend a lot of time in Claude Code because as a creator, I can go from idea to creation pretty quickly, right? And so using AI as a forcing function to create, right? Like solve problems. And so I think business has changed because a lot of that complexity that I think before um, has been solved with simplicity. And so what I mean by that is, I used to create these crazy campaigns inside of Infusionsoft. And that's where this whole Killer Campaigns product came from years and years ago. And it was very complex. I remember selling this training, and one of my friends, I built this whole automated webinar system, and it was like beautiful, and it did like everything really nice. And I'm showing him after he's paid me thousands of dollars. This is a while ago. And I'm showing him, and he's like, "This is too complex, man." He's like, I just do webinars, and I just show up and I make money. I'm never going to
Mhm.
figure this thing out." And it really hit me. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I am really complicating things." And ever since then, this is probably 2012, 2013, that I just sort of leaned in like, how do I make life in business simple and simple scales, right? Complex creates chaos, I think. And so as we have built sales message, I just look towards like, what's the easiest thing we could do? Oh, we could just send an email. We could just do whatever. And so there's actually a really great book. I know I'm bouncing around a lot of different areas, but it brings up a lot of concepts that I have like sort of merged into business, I would say. And it's a book, it's called Obvious Atoms. And Ogilvy used to give this book to every employee that came in. And it was written in the 20s, right? And it's a real short little book. And the story that goes into it's kind of like yeah, it's a story. It's kind of like a rich dad, poor dad kind of story. And ultimately, it's this guy, Adams, and he just figures it out. He's the guy. He's the guy that just tell Adams to get on it and he'll figure it out. And where people have all these complex ways of trying to solve the problem, Adams comes in and just figures out it's the most obvious thing. You haven't called them, you haven't emailed, you haven't texted them. And so I just go back to like first principles, like basics, and so the complexity, I don't think scales, and keeping things super simple and just texting people has really been a transformative, like obvious thing to do,
Yeah.
rather than creating these complex workflows that do all this is what if you just texted them? Oh my gosh, they reply. And so that
Mhm.
has sort of been become the first thing to do, right? Just
Yeah.
text.
Well, actually, when you think about it, just on the texting side of things, a lot of times we'll hear from founders and other sales team members that, "Oh, I tried to reach out to them and they're not getting back to me. I
Hmm.
tried and they're just not getting back to me." And the story that they're telling themselves is that they're just not ready to buy or that they're being ghosted. But when you look at the average open rate, depending on the industry that you're in, average open rate is somewhere around 18% in general. And so that means that 82%, if I did my math right, 82% of the people aren't even getting the
18's good.
message,
Hmm.
right? So 82% of the people aren't even getting the message. So the question that you should be asking yourself is, how do I make sure that they are actually receiving the message?
Yeah.
And an email is not a bad way to reach people, but if you knew that 82% of the people weren't actually doing it, what's another way? That's
Hmm.
when we started integrating text messaging within our flow. And a simple text message follow up, the the odds of getting a reply go way, way, way up because the latest stat, Chris, on this, what is the open rate of a text message?
It's 98%. Yeah, I mean, there is no like trackable open rate, but on average, 98% are gonna open it, 85% in the first 15 minutes. So,
So, I mean, just that in itself it had made a massive, massive difference in getting reply rates inside of that sales conversation, which is huge.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
the biggest roadblock, if you're getting ghosted and you're saying, "Man, I'm just getting ghosted," the first question you have to answer is, "Are you really getting ghosted, or are they just not seeing your message?"
Yeah.
And those
So
are that's been big.
it's interesting, right? Because you could text and people get, oh, I can text. But it's also like, what are you actually saying? So I just filled out a form on Home Depot and on Lowe's because we need to get a new air conditioning unit. It's great. It's hot. So actually it's funny in South Florida. You ever see that billboard? It says your wife is hot. My wife is
Yeah.
hot. So
Yeah, yeah.
so I got to take care of this, which actually I can't even think of the name of that company, but I should probably give them a call because my wife is hot right now. Anyhow, so I filled out the form and I just get these super generic text messages. Hey, so and so, blah, 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 blah. And they're all just super generic. And I'm like, gosh, if anybody just differentiated in any way, I would call them back.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, why not send a picture of like the guy that's going to come out or the person that's going to call you in 2 minutes? And it's just like an animated GIF of Mary, like, hey, it's Mary or whatever. And so like I'd be like, wow, that's super cool. I'm gonna take that call. Right. In a world of differentiation, like it's you don't have to do much. And it's just thinking, what can you do to be a little bit different to cut through that noise when everyone's sort of being the same? And so what's cool about text is not only is it text, but it's animated GIFs, it's pictures, it's PDFs, it's videos, it's audio, right? So you can create this multimodality. I think most people get stuck in a very, let me take what we do on email and copy paste over to text, right? And in
Big
reality,
mistake.
it's like, man, you have so much modality and fun that you could have that increases that response rate. And that's ultimately what you're looking for. Is like, how do you get that response? Right. And
Yeah.
so, Charlie, you probably have gotten those emails where someone puts you in a cold email campaign. The last one's like, should I take you off the list? And it's like a crying dog or something. And so, like
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be boring. And I think you can have fun with those things. And if you just spent 5 minutes and ask Claude or ChatGPT, like, what else can I do? It'll come up with some good hooks, right? Or good responses. So
Well, even something as simple as I know you and I have a mutual friend, Dean Jackson, right? And Dean
yeah,
likes to use the 9-word email. And you take that
I'm
same,
text.
right? You take that same concept and you throw it inside of a text message. One of the probably the one that gets the best response across the board inside of a post sales call follow up is, are you still interested in blank?
Yeah.
Right? Or you,
Yeah.
and especially if you make it more personalized, rather than are you still interested in working with me or working with us? Are you still interested in working with us to help you reach your $3.5 million goal? Whatever it
Mhm.
was said within the sales conversation. And
Yeah.
you're the odds are you are going to get a response.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And
I
it's
think it's important to talk about that because that is something that I've talked about for years, which is the 9-word email and ultimately the 9-word text message. So very quickly, I'll go over that Gene Jackson story. It's a really great one, right?
mm,
And Dean Jackson, one of his friends owned like a direct response printing company. And so they wanted to send out, I don't know, 5,000 blast emails to talk about their services. And so this really beautiful glossy email with the shine on the bonus
right,
now and all
right.
that stuff, right? And then Dean's like, oh, that's cool. Well, let me try my method. And this was going to go out to restaurants. And you have glossy on one email, and then you have like just super simple email on the other. And so Dean's subject line in plain text, the whole email in plain text, subject line was, do you do birthday parties? And keep in mind, it's going out to restaurants. Do you do birthday parties? Well, every restaurant probably does birthday parties, right? So to them, it's the cheese, right? This whole cheese and whiskers idea. And in the emails, hey, hi, do you do birthday parties, Dean? And that was it. And so the response rate is going to be through the roof. And ultimately, that created that conversation, which is something we believe at Sales Message, like conversations are good for business. And
Hmm.
ultimately, you're opening that conversation. So they sent it out. Guess what? No one responded to the glossy response. But then got a massive response rate from the do you do birthday text. And that strategy works. So like one of the things that we have in our follow-up is like 3 months later after someone quote unquote goes cold or starts a trial or does not actually convert to a trial, we just send that text message. Hey, are you still interested in texting for your business or texting for merge field business name? And the response rate on that is like, I don't know, 25%, 30%, something. And it's just on autopilot, but it reactivates because people get busy. They are, maybe at one point it was a hot topic to get onto text messaging and they moved on to other things. And so people make new decisions based on new information. And if the only thing to do is open up a new conversation with them to deliver new information, they'll make a new decision. So, like, this is a Jay Abraham thing, which, gosh, we could go super deep on that. And so it's like if everyone makes new decisions on new information, well, what new information can you provide to give them a new opinion or a new reason to create a new decision, right?
Right.
So,
No, it's true. And, one of the points that you're making, or I should say that we're making, that is a real big distinction. I hope everybody takes notes on this, is that what everybody else tends to do is they tend to push a decision.
mm,
And they're just buy. They put a lot of pressure on making a big commitment type of decision too fast. And so what we've discovered is that rather than saying, let's go for the big decision too fast, we look for the easy micro commitment. What's an easy thing for somebody to reply to? What's an easy way to keep the conversation going and so forth? And so if you just ask, what are some of the easy ways to keep the conversation alive? It's the conversations that help to convert. It's so if you go too quick into you're
mhm.
moving too fast, too quick, you can turn somebody off. So there's a lot of these micro commitments that you can add just to be able to create that conversation, which is going to be really important. Chris, you and I were talking earlier, and I want to revisit this. This is the title of our fireside chat was really about how to get out of the founder being a primary closer, or even for those people that are in sales that feel like their calendars oftentimes being booked, and at times with people that are not always qualified or not ready to buy. And so there are ways in which we you can leverage communication very early on to take a temperature and to see whether or not it makes sense for you to jump in on a conversation right now. And so what are some of the ways that you're using in order to gauge this temperature to see is it right now the best time to have a conversation, or is this person qualified versus not, or
Yeah.
to route it to the right person on the team?
Right, right. I mean, look, when someone's filling out a form, um, I wouldn't even say the old way, but the traditional way is someone fills out a form, you call them, maybe they don't pick up, you send them an email, you've got your series of follow-up emails and hope that they respond back or whatever it is. The new way is they fill out a form, you send an immediate text message because they're out and about, they're going to get that text and reply back to you. And so I like to call it just a grease shoot. And so if you make a statement, there actually is no reason for them to respond, right? Hey, thanks for filling out the form. Okay.
Yeah,
However,
right.
if you ask a question, it elicits sort of, creates an open loop and they want to sort of close the loop and so the thing you want to do is we'll ask a question. That's to your point, like that little micro commitment. So if they were to, for example, I filled out this HVAC form, and if I got a response back, hey, it's Mary over here at HVAC 123. Uh, where is the HVAC located? Oh, is it outside or is it inside?
Yeah.
Who cares, right? Like maybe to them it actually matters, but ultimately is like, how do you just whoop? How do you start this conversation? Because if you're asking a question or not asking a question at all, or it's a hard question, you can't answer it, people are just going to stop. So, like, what's the easiest micro question first that just greases the chute of an engaged conversation? And so, um, that
And actually, I'm
is
going to
the
poll the audience here real quick. How many of you ever responded to somebody that said, "Hey, if you need help, just let me know. Reply back if you need help." Or, if there's anything that I can do, feel free to reach out and let me know. How many of
I
you
mean,
have
that's
ever
like going
responded to that?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's like going into the clothing store and the person's like, "Hey, let me know if you need anything." I will let you know.
Right. And
Right?
that's why you look at
Yeah.
companies like Nordstrom that perform at a significantly higher level and are constantly growing, even inside of down economies, because those people handle it differently, right? When
Right.
you walk into a Nordstrom, they'll ask you a question. Are you here looking for something formal, or is this maybe something informal? Or are you
Mm-hmm.
looking for something as a top, or are you looking for pants, or whatever that might be? And if
Mm-hmm.
you say, I'm just browsing, that's a qualifying, okay, they're just browsing. Or if they
Yeah.
say, I'm actually looking for something for a wedding, okay, great. And
Yeah.
then they know how to direct you, but it's an either or.
Yeah, yeah, and actually,
Good
I learned that
qualifying
from
question.
Ryan Dice. He calls it ask a binary question. So where there's two responses: Are you looking for residential or commercial real estate? Are you looking are you looking for a gift for yourself or for somebody else? Right? And so make it easy, just like a multiple choice. Oh, my wife. So I actually, funny enough, I went to the mall last week, and I don't go to the mall, put it that way. But when I
Mm.
did, I walked into the store and the first person said, "Hey, so and so, let me know if you need anything." And then the second woman again, "Hey, let me know if you need anything." And then like this third young girl, she's probably early 20s. She's like, "Are you looking for something for your wife for Mother's Day?" And I was like, "Yes, I am." And she ultimately was the one that sold me whatever,
Yeah.
the jewelry about. And so that's all it was. It was just a different question. And so I would just encourage everyone here is to take a different approach, right? Ask a binary question. That's like a super simple question to engage. And I'll give you a story because we like to say conversations are good for business. And then you think, oh my gosh, I don't want any more conversations. I don't have enough time to do any conversation, right? And so we started working with this school. It's called Alpha School, and it is a AI first school for K through 8. And I think it's K through 8, and it's blowing up left and right. If you're on X and Twitter, like you're seeing Alpha School all over the place. So they had a problem. And the problem was we're getting a lot of leads and we need to qualify them at scale. And
Yeah.
so what they did is people filled out a form. They went right into Sales Message AI agent that was engaged, right? And engaged with that person over text in their voice and tone. It wasn't robotic. It captured data. So, hey, what's your email or what's your location or what's your whatever it was? It captured that data and then qualified and then put them into a meeting. You imagine you got 75,000 leads. Not all lead is the same, right?
Hmm.
And so maybe location is a barrier. And so if school is in West Palm, but you are in Tampa, that's a 4 hour drive. That's, unqualified.
Yeah.
So there's a series of unqualifications that you need to just sort and sift. And then you're left with like, here's the actual qualified lead. And it was unbelievable. And so you think, well, how can I do that for my business? Right? If I'm going to generate leads, how do I just become a lead gen like company? And so we have four parts to this framework called Textize Your Business. So you have capture, connect, convert, and care. And so Textize, what it means is you can use texting across the entire life cycle. So most companies think, well, I can do broadcasts and I can blast people. And that was the old way, right? Now, with all the different ways that you can use messaging, you can use it to capture leads in so many different ways. Someone can call you and you can do missed call automation because you can't answer a phone, but we can automate a text message. Hey, thanks for calling. Or hey, Chris, I just saw that you called. Hey, what can I help you with? Right? Or hey, thanks for calling. What's your best email? And so you can automate that on social media. Someone can swipe up or click a link. Someone can fill out a web form. Someone can do, um, all the different ways that you can quote unquote capture a lead and then put it into an AI agent that has been trained in your voice and your tone, in the way that you want to respond, what data you want to capture and connect, and then you can convert. And ultimately, it can book a meeting for you, whether it's Calendly or HubSpot Meetings or Google, and it will just run the whole thing, right? So you imagine a world where I can drive traffic and the whole system just does it,
Hmm.
captures it, connects. And then the last part is care for the customer. So you could essentially do customer support over SMS, whether manual or automated, through an AI agent to get reviews, run a survey, get reviews, and then yeah, now you got the whole loop, right? And so a lot of those barriers that we all faced before of like, conversations is pain, conversations is pleasure, right? And now I can just drive traffic and leads through a pipeline through the best channel that is the highest engaged channel and scale. So you
Yeah,
can do
very
it again
important.
too. Yeah.
And I know we're really leaning into a lot of text messaging, and I particularly wanted to bring this up because one of the big questions that we get all the time, or one of the big frustrations, is the fact that I'm getting ghosted, right? And so if you were to just solve for that one thing, and I'm just curious inside of the chat, if you were just to solve for that one thing where you were no longer getting ghosted, what impact would that have on your pipeline? And just throw that inside of chat. What impact would that have on your pipeline if you just weren't getting ghosted? And
Yeah.
text messaging is one of those opportunities. And the only things that we ever coach on, the only things that we ever teach on, are the things that we do every day, because it's a lot different when you can speak from experience than just out of a book or whatever that might be, out of a course. And so we know that texting is a big thing that oftentimes is overlooked. And you do want to go beyond email. And there's multiple different ways that you can do this beyond email. LinkedIn is a phenomenal way, especially with B2B to reach out. But Stephanie on my team, she uses this term called you want to surround the dragon. And I thought that was a really interesting way of looking at it, surround the dragon. And that is, how do you make sure that you can reach them through a bunch of different modalities? And what are the different tools that you have in your toolbox? Because many times the worst number in marketing is one. Only have one method for bringing in leads and sales. You only have one method of communication. You only have one this, one that. So, one can create some vulnerabilities in the system. And then what if that one thing stops working? Then what goes on? And that's what we're seeing in email right now. Post 2020, people weren't shaking hands and kissing babies like they did before. So everybody all of a sudden became digital marketers and everybody started leaning in and flooding the inbox. I don't know about you, but for me, my inbox is busier now than it has ever been. And so it's more likely to get ignored. So then it's about getting yourself out of the inbox to be able to attract those other 82% of the people that aren't seeing the message. There are a lot of
Mm.
other processes and strategies and so forth that you can tie into that. Retargeting being one, again, to stay top of mind. Social selling through LinkedIn to stay top of mind. This is a tool that we use all the time, and it made a huge difference as we text and incorporate that. And it's one of the primary inside of the sales funnel that we're using and seeing real big results.
Right.
And by the way, if you have questions, also bang those inside of chat. Again, this is for you. Anything related to the text message, the sequence, the systems, how you set it up, how you would integrate it within a sales team, how you might use it for marketing, or maybe you have questions about sales and how to break free of founder-led sales, or whatever that might be. Again, this fireside chat is ultimately for you, and that's the whole purpose. We just wanted to sit here and be able to deliver value for you guys. So whatever that might be, don't be shy. Bang that side of the chat. We'd be more than happy to help you there. Chris, here's something else that's coming up.
Yeah, and I'll just say this, like if you have, oh,
Oh,
can you hear me okay?
yeah, a little bit,
All
little bit
right.
of a glitch there. But go ahead, you were going to say something, and then I wanted
Yeah, just
to
like
chime in.
if look, there's a reason you're here. And so if you have a question, by all means, we're here to help you out, right? So we've got some time. So I would just pose this question. It's like, what's your single biggest challenge right now in your business? And look, I mean, there's a lot of challenges in every business, like we all have, but what's the single biggest challenge you have towards messaging or texting or sales or what have you? Post it in there and hopefully we can get to that. So, but
And by the way, and this is an opportunity for you to also pick our brains because both Chris and I have grown really substantial companies, and we're able to help you from many different angles as well. So this is again an opportunity to ask for different experiences. So again, I encourage you to do that. Chris, you and I were talking recently. A lot of people, they are when we look into the future. There's this idea of AI sales conversations. And we're starting to see it more and more and more, these AI sales conversations as a starting point into a relationship. I'll be honest, it's not something that I have a lot of experience in, so I can't speak about setting up these AI systems in terms of phone systems and whatnot. But you've recently had a conversation around that. We're starting to hear more buzz around it. Can you tell me a little bit more about that experience, those AI sales conversations, and where you see that moving into the future?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's probably way too early to have a sales conversation. You're seeing a lot of chat around AI SDRs and AI sales reps. I think it's a little too early for the sales conversation. Where AI can play a big part is again in this, you know, qualification of the leads and those sort of conversations. When it comes to voice, we were talking, my daughters had a cheer competition in Orlando, and so we called the hotel, and it was an AI voice. It sounded amazing, and I got what I needed through an AI agent on the voice side of things. And it wasn't your typical like click 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 click. It was a real conversation back and forth.
Yeah.
And whether it was order towels or food or whatever it was, like you could do pretty much all of it there. And so I
Hmm.
think today is the worst, right? Today's the worst it's ever going to be. It's just going to get better and better as time goes on. But I think ultimately what you want AI to do is to help assist in those more um, outsourceable things,
Yeah.
right? Whether it's help information or asking those qualifying questions as an AI SDR, but to tee it up to a sales rep, right? We have a pretty, I wouldn't say a complex sale, but there's a lot of moving parts in order to really help and understand. We can't hand that off to an AI to run that call and do the demo and do all of that. But what we can have it do is everything on the front end of that to qualify to get to
Yeah.
that booked meeting to where, and what that provides is now our team can really focus on what they were hired to do, which is to close sales. Like that's the ultimate KPI is, close one revenue, close one count, pipeline, all those things. And now they can just focus on that. Because sometimes when I look in the CRM, I'm like, oh my gosh, like no one texted this person. And so there's a lot of this leakiness within the business. And
Hmm.
it's because of humans are in that loop. And
Yeah.
so when you can sort of optimize those stages where there is that leaky bucket, well, how can AI, how can SMS, how can email, how can whatever um, channel help fill that gap that could save time to focus on the most important thing, which is what they were hired to do in the first place. And so again, I see sometimes texts are not responded to, or emails that are not responded to, or whatever's not responded to. And to me, that's just all leakiness. One, because that's also
Yeah.
customer experience. I want a really good customer experience. So when someone calls us or emails us or texts us, they know someone's going to reply in X time. And if that is AI, well, does that help with our customer experience? And the answer is yes, right?
Yeah.
So long that the quality of information is high quality. And if not, bounce back to a human to do a call or a demo. And so I just go back to like, what's the experience I want to create? And if AI can assist in that to show up in our most optimal way and high quality, like, let's do it. Let's test it. Let's try it. So,
Brett asked a question. He was talking about how he's been in business for a long time. He hates talking to robots and so forth. And I totally understand that. There's a couple of things that I want to bring up. Number one, don't pretend that your robot is a person.
mhm.
And we see that over and over again where they try to fake it. You're better off actually just being authentic and saying, hey, this is blah, 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 the AI bit. Yes, Steve, I still might be a robot. Um, but it is important that you just call it out and you want to have that authenticity in the relationship because this actually started back when Sora came out with those AI videos. And up until that Sora moment, people looked at AI, they looked at it with a lot more encouragement. Sora came out, people got really excited. They're like, look at these videos that I'm creating. And they're loving the fact that they're able to create these AI videos that look real. Until what ends up happening is now they're being shown a video and they're like, oh my God, you know that storm that happened in Jamaica? There's a shark swimming inside of the parking lot. That's crazy. And then they show somebody else and they're like, look at the shark swimming in the parking lot. And then they find out that that was an AI video, AI generated video. And now they feel dumb and they feel like that they've been duped. And that's happened with every single one of us at some point. We've looked at a video, we thought it was authentic, and then we realized that we've been duped. What's going on now with Pavlov's dog is that now we associate AI generating content with a negative feeling because we've been duped. We thought it was real, we thought it was authentic, and then we've been duped. And that's part of the reason why Sora doesn't exist anymore because people decided they didn't like it anymore. I've been fooled too many times and I don't like it anymore. So when
Yeah.
you are generating an AI based conversation, be real about it. Let them know that this is an AI based conversation. And that helps to reduce some of the skepticism, and it does not do anything to tarnish that trust. But if you pretend it's real, Brett, do I see you raising your hand?
Yeah. So when you switch from humans to what you're talking about, I assume before you get better, you get worse. How long do you get worse before you start getting better?
Yeah. I mean, you bring up a really good question. And so I will, we are we use humans as a competitive advantage, meaning while everyone is moving towards an AI world, that actually may not be a good thing. And there are parts of the business that you don't want AI to
Hmm.
participate in there. And
Yeah,
so, while there are businesses that are moving all towards AI and all towards that, that actually becomes a competitive advantage to say, look, we actually have a team to talk to. And we actually did this, about probably 8 months ago, 9 months ago. Um, when you go and you get a phone number, you got to go through compliance, which is basically like you got to get approved through the carriers to send texts. And for a while, it was all just, I wouldn't say AI because we didn't even have AI to do it, but we pushed people through a form and it would just go back and forth. And we just made the decision like, look, this part of the business is really important. Let's hire people to help assist with that
yeah,
and you can't AIify that. You can
yeah,
AIify parts of it to optimize it. But man, what a competitive advantage. And we use that. Say, look, we
yeah,
have humans you can talk to help you go through compliance. And we saw retention like uptick. And so I would just use that to your advantage. But look for where are the opportunities that you can use AI to assist in those areas. And it's not foolproof, right? Even in our calling platform, when we do weekly sort of product reviews and Susie's on the call and so she'll attest to this, but you call it and you're like there's a delay, it's fake, and so the first thing is, hey, let me talk to an agent, talk to a human, talk to whatever. And so that's a bad experience.
yeah,
And so we're like, we can't ship that.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
In other words, that's not good enough in order to fully replace that. And so that's just sort of time and improvement that will happen. And so I would just say, look inside of your business where are those areas where it's not good enough to fully replace that, because the last thing that you would want, Brett, is like you full this AI thing. It pisses people off, right? And now by the time they get to a human, they're not happy.
Yeah.
And so that may not be the place that you add it, right? And you may want to maintain that and turn that into the advantage. You could just claim it and say, hey, we have real humans here.
The
Go
other
for
thing
it.
I want you to consider is that I also think it's important that there are reasons and results. Ultimately the only thing that matters are the results, right? And oftentimes we look at our own belief system and we believe that everybody else is going to also believe that to be true or have the same experience. And Will Guidara, the gentleman who he owned and ran the number one restaurant in the world, I believe it's called 11 Madison Avenue up in New York. And Will had said, "Look, we have the number one restaurant in the world. It is absolutely critical that when people call for a reservation, that somebody is there to answer the phone and to give them the experience from the very moment that they call." And so he believed that to be true. But his staff kept coming back and going, no, no, no. People don't want to deal with a human at that stage. At that stage, they just want to know, is a reservation available and at what time? But they don't want to deal with a human. Will went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, battling with his team. And then finally he said, the only way that I'm ever going to end this argument is to prove to them that I'm right and they're wrong. So then he put technology in front to say, all right, go ahead, book it through technology and then see what happens. And what he found was that people actually preferred that. They wanted to deal with the technology at the front end to book the reservation, but then they wanted the human to follow up afterwards to customize the experience. So there are times, to Chris's point, where technology and AI makes sense to integrate that in the beginning. And then there are times when it makes more sense to just have the human. But if you don't know and you think that there's a possibility, then I would recommend that you test it. And this was a big eye-opening moment for Will, where he said, "Look, I this is where one of those moments where I absolutely had mud on my face. I was willing to go to my grave to believe that this was actually going to be true, just given the nature of the restaurant and the clientele that we have. But in fact, I was wrong. People wanted the technology at the front end of the experience, but then to follow up with the human and the back end. So again, we don't know until we test it. Will, again, would have went to his grave believing that. But if you're not sure, test it and then see what happens.
Yeah, go ahead, Brett.
Question? Okay, so with the example that you just gave of Will and booking reservations, I'm a medical clinic, and so we book appointments. So similar. We have I don't I know there's other people who don't care about my situation, so I'm going to cut not say anything. But we get complimented. Oh, it's so great that we spoke to a human. Oh, thank God. And this is what I'm known for is great customer service. But I'll take Will as an okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's just my front office not wanting to lose their job, saying, "Oh, people really love it when they call and they get a human on the first ring." But assuming I can't entirely fire my front office, adding this process of automated reservations is going to add expense, not save me money because I can't fire my front office. So, how much did it cost Will to just to put his foot in the water? How much did it cost Will to add computer reservations? 5,000, 10,000, 50,000? How much?
I don't know the answer to that, but here's what I would ask. If we want better answers, we got to ask better questions. And so, what I might ask is, where could technology actually benefit our staff and or our clients rather? Where could technology better our clients? And if you have a medical facility and they're booking appointments, have you thought about text messages to remind them of their appointments? And maybe text messages that make it easy if they have to cancel or reschedule rather than having to call and say, oh, I got to cancel, oh, I got to reschedule. Sometimes that dialogue back and forth can actually make their life that much easier. Or even just a text message after the appointment was had, where it's on a scale of 1 to 10. How would you have rated your experience with your practitioner? And now you can get these automated NPS scores. But that's something very simple that does not disrupt the experience, but actually makes it easier for them. So just about, I would say, where in that moment would it actually be more appropriate?
Okay.
Does that make
So
sense?
there's no even ballpark. Is it a 29.95 a month subscription or it's $50,000 up front?
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
Chris, I
I,
guess
I
you
have
could
I have
speak to
no
that.
idea. I have no idea where what we're talking about.
yeah, I mean, it's probably gonna be a couple $100 a month, right? So like to solve your problem, like, I mean, we have different plans. It's all based on volume, right? And so it scales with how much volume you have. So yeah, a couple $100. So it's not like a $25,000 or
Okay.
50,000. Nowhere
Okay.
near that.
Okay.
Um,
Fair.
yeah, and I'll just say this with Charlie is like, you know, probably one of the biggest instant gains is those appointment reminders, appointment rescheduling, appointment cancel through SMS. I know if I schedule something I'm not checking my email. I'm definitely not picking up the phone from an unknown number to get a reminder about that stuff. But oh my gosh, thank you, thank you. It's actually preferred that I get a text message about that appointment, about that reminder, and then I can manage that, from a text or go into a portal or something like that. So like I would start there, right? Look at where are all the gaps in between. And maybe the last thing to do is, hey, let me look at the calling side of it. I can speak a lot to the messaging side. The calling side of things, I would say, is a new world with like automated true AI and how to book appointments and all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of companies that are trying to solve that. I wouldn't say that there's one out there that's like the best in the world because they're all trying to figure it out. But on the messaging side, it's probably the best place to start, and later, as I would say, the tech gets better. And I imagine you're dealing with an older demographic. They don't like a
Yeah.
non-human. So, I would say that's probably the last part to take a look at is the voice side of things.
On the voice side, if I was going to test one area, I would actually test the voice on the outside of normal work hours because it'll be a lot more acceptable. Rather than send them to a voicemail, you can then, rather than that, then you could do the voice call. Or if you have an answering service, a lot of times when you have the answering service, they sound like they smoke 12 packs of cigarettes before they answer the phone. And that doesn't necessarily give the best experience either. So then you could also split test on that end. Chris, I'm going to actually. I see Steve has been pretty active inside of the chat. So Steve operates one of the top SEO agencies in the country, if not the world. I'm curious when it comes to if you think about it from a B2B perspective and on the agency side of things, where would you see? And then Steve, feel free to take yourself off mute if you want to chime in. But where do you see the advantage would be for an agency leveraging this either internally within their own operations and their client delivery, or even from a sales perspective on your end?
Yeah. Like if I was an agency, I need a new offering, right? A new revenue source and a new package or new plan to offer. And so we work with a lot of agencies that do this. We don't necessarily do a white label, but ultimately it is, hey, I can now have a new offering around appointment bookings or, whatever it is for that specific vertical in business. And so that is a package to sell for solving that one use case or problem for that business. So we, we work with a lot of different HubSpot agencies and they do a lot of different things for businesses. And so what we've seen work best is just that. They are essentially selling a text messaging implementation package, which sort of integrates the Textize framework within that organization and ultimately is running an audit and saying, hey, where are the points of opportunity in the business to inject SMS to decrease no-shows? Great, let's do appointment reminder. Hey, you're doing social media, start to use swipe up to text or whatever to build your list. Hey, we're going to textize your forms. So you're collecting a phone number, you're doing nothing with it. Let's now turn into an automation to turn those texts into conversations. You have a phone number on your website. Let's turn that and make that textable, right? So there's all these opportunities along the way. And it's really just running an audit to find the opportunity. And there's a lot that go rise to the top. And then there's a whole set of, I would say first tier, second tier, third tier opportunities to take advantage of, right? It may just be to lead conversion, right? But
So,
Well,
so knowing Charlie for the last couple of years, he's learned how to read my mind and understanding what I want from a call like this. So nice job, Charlie.
I
You,
got
you absolutely,
unagi.
you absolutely nailed it. So it's weird when I think about the tier one, tier two, and tier three, because we're putting together some new packages for clients. And I think text and SMS could really play a role in supporting our clients' needs for engaging with their customers and or prospects. And for me, it's about text is obviously interruption marketing, and in some cases, especially the text that I'm getting more of the time, it's annoyance marketing, and it's what you talk about the tier one, two, and three that really sets it apart. Saying it's permission based or it's reminder based, and you're stepping into it instead of going full tilt and buying a crappy list and sending text to 12,000 people who have no idea who you are. And that's where I need to connect more dots. So that's where this is very helpful to say how do you dip your toes in that water without fully jumping in. So I really appreciate that.
One
Yeah,
thing,
look, I mean,
Steve.
I read Seth Godin's book, Permission Marketing, like I don't know, 20 years ago, right?
Yeah,
And that was actually
same.
one of my first marketing books. I was like, yeah, my God, this is
I think I
amazing.
have that on my
Somebody gets
desk
it.
just now.
What was it
Yeah.
called? Yo-Yo Dine? I think that was his first one, Yo-Yo Dine.
Big
Anyhow,
Red Fez. Where's the banana? There's a few of them.
yeah. So I mean, I'll say this, look, you can't just grab a list and start texting people. One, that's
No.
spam. Two, like it's
No.
against the law. And so all this is all opt-in based. So really just running that audit of opportunity. Look, the assets already exist in the business. They already have a web form, they already have a contact form, they already have a checkout form if they're, any sort of business, right? Collecting online transactions. Those are all flows that already exist. And so how do you plug in SMS into that to either A, build a list, B,
Hmm.
like send reminders, or C, to, drive down the next stage in that particular funnel. And so, yeah, I mean, it really is just like, what is the biggest opportunity? And that becomes sort of the sell. It could just be, we're going to book more meetings, right? And so the old way is you guys are calling, you're not getting a response. The new way is we're going to run it through an AI agent and we're going to give you a 20% lift on booked meetings, which is really what we're seeing, right? And so, which is the preference of
Yeah.
consumers as well. So, yeah, from an agency, it really is defining where in that overall funnel do you want to make that offering and offering it up, right? And you could have these sort of textize the entire business, and it's these four modules to where we're gonna set up all your capture. And so
Yeah.
these are all the mechanisms to capture leads and textize all those mechanisms and then put it into a connect sort of AI agent to engage, capture data, book a meeting or whatever, and then the conversion, and then with a survey after somebody buys a product, if they give you a 5 star, awesome, ask for a review, just the full loop. And so you could just look at these as sort of four parts to that quadrant or that equation, and maybe they only need the first part. And then ultimately what that does is it opens loops for your client to say, hey, just do the whole thing. Oh, to do the whole thing, it's X. So Steve, this is good timing because I'm writing this book. It's pretty much done. Hopefully in the next month or two, we'll launch this out. But one of the ideas here is to really create this textize uh, consultant. And, I have a viewpoint on an opinion on how this sort of idea of textizing a business is. And so consultants to sort of become certified to install and implement because we can't do it. We're a software company, not a service company, right? So if you
Yeah.
want to talk,
Yeah.
we've got,
I,
yeah,
I would love to. I mean, it sounds interesting. I think there's a lot
yeah,
of room here. Even just playing around with sort of our prospect list in some of the outreach we're doing and figuring out those pieces can be a great starter program for ultimately rolling it to clients. So it piqued my interest.
Steve, I
cool.
want you to think about this for a minute, right? So you and I are probably from a very similar, if not the same generation, right? So chances are when you want to talk to your mom, you pick up the phone and you call her, right? I mean, that's the way I do it. But if you look at the kids, what do you notice about the kids when they want to talk to their mom? What do they do to talk to their mom?
On Mother's Day, one of mine texted the night before, and the other one was a good son and actually called. But he's also in sales, so he gets it.
Got it. But isn't that
Smart
funny
guy.
that these that the kids, the millennials and the Gen Zs, for their most important relationships, they're still texting, right? And they're texting their family. But I bring this up because as you know, Steve, we've been working together for a long time. The buyer's journey is changing, and the people who
Oof.
are making decisions are getting younger and younger and younger. And so all of a sudden, we're sitting there and we've got this mindset, or not you and I, but everybody else, your competition, they got this mindset and they're like, okay, the younger generation, they may text their most important relationships in the world, but we're even more important. So they're going to jump on the phone with us. Like there's a disconnect that they won't even talk to their own mothers, but oh no, we're different. They're going to pick up the phone and they're going to talk to us instead. So if we meet them where they're at and we use the mechanisms and the ways that they like to communicate in, chances are we're going to have better conversations. At some point, they may want to get on the phone, which is natural. They're going to want to do that for the big decisions. But at some point, some of these folks would just feel a heck of a lot more comfortable if they could just text different questions and get their answers, particularly as they go through this their buyer's journey. So just something to consider. I know we got 5 minutes left here. So real quick, two things. We'll start one. Chris, say people want to get an idea of sales messages for them. Do you have any sort of program or resource or trial or whatever that folks could check out?
Yeah. So, I mean, they could go to salesmsg.com and check out the website, start a 14-day trial. We've had a lot of customers um, create a matrix around us versus. And so one customer, he showed us, he's like, look, I put together you and all your competitors because we wanted to find the best solution. And so he's like, after 5 or 6 features of trying to compare everybody, everyone started to fall down with a no, 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 no. And sales message kept being yes, 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 yes. So I would just encourage you, if like messaging is a part of your overall strategy, maybe you're using your own phone, you want to have your team use a phone, whether it's a shared inbox, so everyone can manage that. You can do that if you have a sales team where you need individual phone numbers for them to, do calls and texts. You also want to automate it, so maybe you have, HubSpot or Salesforce. So yeah, so you can go to salesmessage.com and check it out, and
Awesome.
yeah, give it
And
a
I
go.
see
We've
Susie
got
put a
real
link over
humans.
there.
We have real humans that will talk to you and help you, and we have a little bit of AI too. But we have real people that you can talk to on live chat. Susie's one of our agents over there, and she knows a ton about sales message. And we've
Awesome.
got real people that will respond to you and help you get set up. So if it's
Awesome.
an
And then
option,
that's it. They put a link over there inside of the chat if you want to do that. Also
yeah,
on June 17th, we're going to do a workshop. It's how to turn strangers into pre-sold buyers who see you everywhere. We're going to do that workshop on June 17th. It's actually a 2 hour workshop. And this isn't one of those workshops where it's a webinar and you're going to walk away with a ton of notes. You will have notes, but we're actually going to get stuff done. And if you want to attend that workshop for the sales message audience here, my team will put a link in there. And if you use the code sales message, not only we get a discount on that, but we're also going to give you a business growth stack conversation for free. So you're actually going to have a one-on-one conversation on your business and the opportunities that exist in your business. And you can do that if you enter sales message. If you want to be part of that, get a discount in that workshop on how to turn strangers into pre-sold buyers that see you everywhere. So again, that's on June 17th. And just make sure you use the code sales message. That wraps up today's fireside chat. If you like it, you want to have more of those, let us know. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. We talked a lot about the different ways of communication. More importantly than anything else is just this understanding that if you've ever found yourself wondering, why am I getting ghosted? What's going on the other side? What can happen beyond this? The better question that we should be asking ourselves is, are they getting my message? And start there, because chances are they're probably not getting the message. And if you solve for that, then it's a lot easier to be able to figure out what needs to go on with the message itself. Many times we break something that actually should be working or can work, but we're looking in the wrong place. So that's how we use text messages. We do it every day inside of Predictable Profits. That's why I wanted to bring Chris in because I'm a big fan of just sharing the different things that we use internally. And so that's what we use. That's a number of our clients use to bridge that gap between ghosting and having these real conversations. And yeah, I wanted to share it. So Chris, thank you very much for being here. And if you want to check it out, there's a 14-day trial inside of the chat box, and I hope you join us inside of the workshop. The link again is inside of the chat, and just use that code sales message if you want to get that free call. Chris, dude, it's always a pleasure. We're gonna have to do dinner again soon.
good jamming, man. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thanks everyone for all the questions, and yeah, this is fun.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good
Take
one.
care.
Thanks, y'all.
See ya.